Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. It's week 6 of the NFL. It's time to look at the props, and who better than the Welsh and the Undertaker, Andrew Erickson, to help us go through. It was a good week for the boys last week, a good Thursday night football, too. If you watched yesterday, Scott Bogman was red hot, so we are cashing right now. Don't forget to sync your sports books for free and download the Betting Pros app on iOS, on Android, and of course, if we're talking about props, we're talking about the prop bet cheat sheet. So if you haven't checked it out already, go to bettingpros.com/props, check it out. A lot of the data, a lot of the discussion you're going to hear today is based from stuff that we find ourselves from the prop bet cheat sheet. So use the tools just like the pros. Again, bettingpros.com/props. That's the place to find it. And oh, look at these two people I just found here hanging out with me. So Welsh, your 49ers got a victory last night. Have put the Seahawks in their place. It looks like the 49ers back on track for that division, eh?
Yeah, I mean, they tried to give it away. It's what they do. Here's my tip for betting the 49ers. Bet the first half, bet the 49ers money line or spread in the first half, and then take the other team and whatever plus money it is in the second half. They cannot hold a second half lead for their life. They were lucky to hold on to that last night. That lost Jordan Mason. Eddie Guerrero had to come in and run for them. Like, that's what
from
they're
the top rope.
From the top rope. Exactly right. They were able to hold it, but Debo from the top rope, really. Yes. It was nice the Niners to not lose another 20-point game. It was great.
Andrew Erickson, my essay. We get to see Drake Maye this week. You mixed emotions, I assume, happening inside your tummy?
Mixed emotions, but excited for something new, right? The new era is starting. Drake Maye, and I think the thing that I'm most excited for is they're wearing the red throwback jerseys. We're going to be cooking, baby. So it's not like the Patriots were good when they wore these jerseys traditionally, but they've put some decent spankings on some teams when they were wearing the red jerseys before. So let's go.
Do you think the teams play up for those?
In the snow? Well, you remember the Tom Brady one in the snow? That was a good
6
one. No
touchdowns in the first half or in the second
Brady's
quarter.
Not wearing that jersey. Go ahead, Walsh.
Well, I was saying, do you guys think that do players get extra jacked up on a certain type of jersey? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, man. You know what? I always tell my players that I still coach the 12U kids. Look good, play good. You know, they come in, they got their glasses, they got their bandana things, they got their stuff. You know, they got the eye black, whatever they got, man. You feel good. That's the old Deion Sanders thing, man. Look good, play good.
You got Sean McVay coaching vibes for sure. I can see you as it's Sean McVay.
I'm definitely a Pete Carroll / Sean McVay hybrid on the flag football field. Let's get to the props here.
Do you chew massive wads of gum too while you're on the sideline?
No, but I do
chomping on the gum.
I will wear the sunglasses on occasion.
Okay.
You know, I'll wear the cool sunglasses once in a while. Yeah, look again. Look good, play good. Let's go. Hopefully we look good and play good right here for week 6. Welsh, let's kick things off here. Let's start with a Texans wide receiver, but maybe not the Texans wide receiver that everybody is going to. Let's fade the public a little bit with Stefon Diggs and talk about Tank Dell.
Yeah, Tank Dell is my guy. Obviously, Stefon Diggs kind of takes some of that one role, but I'm not so sure he ends up taking the full. I think he takes some Nico targets. I don't know that he takes over the full role. So projections are pretty high on this for Tank Dell, which is really nice. This number we're looking at is 56.5. It was actually down at 55.5. You've got PFF projections over almost 70, 68.5. The loss of Nico is going to open up a 30% target share and a 40% yard share for this team. Tank, he's hit this only once this season, but New England is giving up the 8th most passing yards per game. And again, the thing that you love about Tank Dell is the big playability. He is going to be the big average depth of target play here. Stefon Diggs, lower. I think it's still under 10. Nico Collins makes his money off of those big plays and getting downfield, and that's where Tank is going to go. He's going to get right into this game. We're going to have one big play, I think, that is going to eat up more than 50% of this, and the targets are going to be there. So again, they've got to make up for a really massive target share, and Tank and CJ Stroud last year were getting that done. So this isn't going to just be about Diggs. And the other positive is Diggs is going to take on some of the primary coverage. So number one corners are going to jump in on Stefon Diggs. This is an opportunity for Tank to get those big explosive plays. So I really like this receiving yard prop. Again, it is, you can tell by the books and everything, he's only hit this once. So this is a big number for someone that's only hit it once because we can see where we're going with this. I think he's going to easily cover this as do projections. So that's number one for me this week.
Yeah, I bet this one too. Also in this game, Andrew Erickson and I discussed back on Monday, I had a hypothetical 22.5 for Drake Maye's rushing yards running for his life. And it opened up at 24.5. So I bet it 24.5 because it's pretty close to my number. And it's gone up even more. Andrew, is it still good?
Oh, it is still excellent. Drake Maye, over 26.5 rushing yards. Been teasing it all week, just waiting for the books to finally drop this number, and I think it's still too low. Talk about this matchup. I'm going to put people in the perspective of Drake Maye. He's going to drop back. There's going to be nobody open, and the pressure is going to be coming because the Texans have the number 1 pressure rate in the NFL. So what are you going to do? You're going to drop back. Oh, Jalen Polk isn't open. None of these receivers are getting separation. I'm going to run. I'm going to run for my life because when you look at the Texans, they rank dead last in rushing per EPA against quarterback scrambles this season, allowing 32 rushing yards per game to opposing quarterbacks. Drake Maye is a mobile quarterback. That is why he's starting this game, because Gerard Mayo knows that, hey, he can do way more than Jacoby Brissett behind this offensive line. That's why I think that he's playing in this game. Look at Drake Maye, what he did at UNC when he had to shoulder the load after he lost all his receivers to the NFL. Guy was averaging 56 rushing yards per game his last 2 years as a starter. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I do like the Patriots +7, but I do know Drake Maye is going to run a ton. So get ready, buckle up, bet the over.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. Again, bet that already too. So let's continue on. Welsh, Rashod White looks like his performance might be hampered by injury if he plays at all. That means Bucky Irving, next man up. The number is 37.5. Do you think that's comfortable for you?
That's very, very comfortable for me. I'm actually, as we were talking, I was going to see if that has adjusted at all because it did come off. It came off of the books for some time yesterday. Yeah, I don't even actually see it on one book right now, but it is one of my favorites this week. Bucky Irving, 37.5 is a low number because Rashod White is kind of banged up. Saints are currently averaging 89 yards given up per game rushing on just 19 carries, but that's over 4.5 yards per carry. Irving has hit this 37.5 number 4 of 5 weeks. And with Rashod White not practicing Wednesday and Thursday, it really does look even good, even if he's active, because I know Rashod White had some of this not practicing issue last week and got in. Even if he's active, Bucky Irving has been more of the primary runner. And he has hit this in 4 or 5 weeks. So if this number goes up, I would probably still be good with this. Anything under 45. Not saying that he's still not going to crush it after the fact, but we're just talking about getting a big advantage. Interestingly, though, I will say some of the projections have not turned over. So it's not something you're going to be able to go and rely on, is look at a lot of projections to help you really on guys like Bucky Irving and Tank Bigsby and stuff like that. But this number is fantastic because he's become more of a primary rushing role. And even though the Saints are giving up so many yards, to running backs overall, it's yards per carry over 4.5. So this is a great, great spot for Bucky Irving. Whether Rashod White is active or not, he should slam this. One of my favorites of the week.
Let's play a game here. Let's pretend like he is inactive. Bucky Irving number goes up to 52.5. Are you comfortable?
It's a good number. It's a pretty good number. I was going to say
that's why I'm Joey P. Because I come up with a number.
With Rashod. That's what they all say, actually. It's what they say behind the scenes. They're like Joey P with the numbers.
That guy's got numbers.
Coach Joe. I would say like anything under 55 feels like you're having an advantage. So yeah, probably 52. I would still hit that. Over 55, we're just pushing it. This is the Saints team. Here's a tough thing with this team. It's like, what is this going to end up looking like? Is this going to end up being like Spencer Rattler really does make this team look efficient, or is it going to be a lot of in and out? So if the Bucs have a big lead, this is phenomenal for Bucky Irving. If the Saints were to look like they did in week 1 and they're playing from behind, that's more of a Rashod White play. I like the former though. So I think the Bucs are going to be able to handle some business in this and control some clock, and that works really well for Bucky Irving.
All right, let's continue on here. Erickson, you are somebody who's not afraid of the uglier side of betting. And by ugly, I mean the Tennessee Titans. So you've chosen a receiver here from the Titans you feel good about. Let's talk about Calvin Ridley and the why.
Calvin Ridley over 3.5 receptions because the squeaky wheel remains undefeated. Brian Callahan came out this week and said, quote, "I need to find ways to get you the ball more." Talking directly to Calvin Ridley. Well, this guy calls the plays on offense. So what's going to happen? They're going to throw the ball to Calvin Ridley against the Indianapolis Colts, who rank 30th in yards per attempt allowed this season, allowing the second most passing yards to the game or to perimeter wide receivers this season. That's how you attack the Colts defense. If you're not running the football, you're attacking their perimeter cornerbacks. That's where Calvin Ridley is going to be deployed in this matchup. So, look, this is really simple for me. I think the number is too low for a player that is the number one receiver on his team in a positive matchup. You look at the prop bet cheat sheet. Every receiver that has faced the Colts that's most comparable to Calvin Ridley has gone over their receptions totals this season. The projections have him for 4 catches, nearly 50 receiving yards, well ahead of his projection on the lines in both receptions and receiving yards. So I like both. I like over on receptions, the over on the receiving yards, because Ridley can also deliver it on a big play. But I think that he's going to get volume here. And we've seen games where he's had spiked weeks so far this season with Will Levis. So it's a positive matchup. I think you're getting a value here on this number that I think is too low for Calvin Ridley.
Well, he went over it in weeks 1 and 2 for the receiving yards total. You know me, I'm always hesitant to bet receptions. That's not where I like to live. But the average number you're getting is 43.5. There's still a couple books I'm looking at Betting Pros right now, and this is the joy of the app, right? As I can see all the different lines, and you can still get 41.5 in a couple places. So take that 41.5 on the receiving yards. I would let the receptions go, but Erickson makes a good case for it.
Yeah.
As you said, the squeaky wheel getting the grease.
It is weird that you ended up doing this because I was honed in on Tajay Spears for some time. I almost put Tajay Spears receptions on this because Tony Pollard, it was like 2.5 at big minus money, but it was big plus money for Tajay Spears for 2.5 over. But at the end of the day, Joe, you said this really well. Erickson's not afraid to get into the mud and get into the really gross side, because then I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, you're betting on Titans. We're not going to do that. We're going to have fun this weekend. We're not going to sweat and have anxiety and need to sit down half the time because we're very concerned. We're going to not bet on Titans. So I appreciate his ability, your ability, Erickson, to get into the mud because it's kind of gross.
It is impressive.
The Ramondre Stevenson bet was gross last week too, and
that's
what I said. TikTok and came through.
Yeah, they absolutely did. The Eagles are coming off of their bye. They look to get their 2-star wide receivers returning. Yet, Welsh, you are still on Saquon Barkley's over on the receiving yards. Let's talk about it. Brown, Smith back. How does that not hurt Barkley in this particular wager?
Well, I mean, in theory, it definitely can hurt it, but Saquon Barkley has always been involved in the passing game. That is always his thing. 3 of 4 weeks, he has hit this number. So even with Brown and Smith out there, we've still had that happen. The Browns, a little bit more of a tougher defense in general. So you might have a lot of secondary coverage that is targeting, this might be a Dallas Goedert thing too, but it might, be really honed in on A.J. Brown and Davonta Smith. One of the things with the Browns as well, besides Saquon hitting this, they're averaging over 8 yards given up per reception to running backs. So Saquon is usually seeing somewhere between 3 and 5 targets, I would say 3 or 4 catches per game. So you can look at the reception prop, which I believe might even be 3.5 on this one. This is a low number, 17.5. We don't see this low of a number on Saquon that often. And the Browns, they've given this up 3 of 5 times this season. One of those, it was on 2 receptions. So, I mean, you've got big yards given up to running backs that are getting out of the backfield. You see a lot of other teams that are, it's like 2-3 yards per reception for RBs. These are big plays given up to running backs to one of the players that has to get the ball all the time in open field, not just through the middle. So I love Saquon on this. I'd like him to get 3 catches. I like him to go over this. By odds of yards per reception, that should put him over 20. Projections across all systems are over this 17.5. Yes, 17.5 over receiving yards. Saquon Barkley, lock it up, especially off the bye.
All right, so if Welsh is in on Barkley and you have a returning A.J. Brown, you got to get him the football. So who's the odd man out? Erickson, could Davonta Smith, dare I say, Undertaker, be staring at an under in week 6?
I think so. I'm going under on 5.5 receptions for Davonta Smith. At this particular number, he's only gone over it in 7 of his last 17 games played with A.J. Brown, dating back to the beginning of last season. This is something that carries over with fantasy too. Davonta Smith's numbers get boosted dramatically when A.J. Brown or Dallas Goedert miss time. That's really when you see him step up, and you see him put up lesser numbers when these guys are healthy. So I think that this line at 5.5 is just too high, especially against the Cleveland Browns, who I think that they're weaker against the run than the pass. They've allowed the 5th fewest completions to opposing offenses this season with the 2nd lowest completion rate. So you're looking at, okay, the yardage versus the receptions totals. I don't think Smith is going to see enough volume in this particular matchup to go over 5.5 catches, whereas I know that he's dynamic enough of a player to get to the yardage potentially. So that's why I'm staying away from the yards here and going for the under on the receptions, because I don't know if we look at this matchup and say, well, Jalen Hurts, you got to drop back and throw 40 times in this particular matchup when we have Saquon against the Cleveland Browns, who are reeling on defense right now. So going under on the Eagles wide receiver.
All right, let's continue on here to number 4. Again, we still got some touchdown calls to make later in the show, but before we get to those, we're going to talk about the Jets. Well, because the Jets are fun to talk about in some ways, I guess. So the Jets move on for Robert Saleh, but yet still, Nathaniel Hackett gets demoted from play calling. I guess Jeff Ulbrich said, yeah, the problem is this, and whether you want to hear it or not, I guess what's Woody Johnson going to do? He's going to fire the interim head coach? I mean, he's going to continue to make these calls here, and now calling plays, it is now Todd Downing, who likes to hand the football off last time I checked. So, Welsh, do we finally get a breakout Breece Hall game? Because I know Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to hand the ball off. He wants to throw. He's getting old, and the time in the sun is setting here. But does that mean that we get Breece Hall finally maybe getting a little bit more action, some more volume, and maybe an over, dare I say?
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Like, I think if there are two things that are going to be in play here, especially, it's kind of like the interim coach thing. Like, you have a coaching change, you get back to basics. And what are the things that you would look to do? Get it into your best playmakers' hands. Who are those players? Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Breece Hall actually should be number 1 on that list. I'm not going at rushing yards because I still do think it's a little bit squirrely with the Braylon Allen thing, even though the numbers are looking good. What I am focused on are his receiving yards. I love running back receiving yard props, and I'm pretty heavy on it this week, but this one specifically is my favorite. 23.5 for Breece Hall. Projections are over 30. Breece has hit this number in 3 of 5 games so far. Up against the Bills, Bills are averaging 2 running backs, 6 catches, and over 60 receiving yards to RB so far this season. And 4 of 5 games, the running back has hit this prop against the Bills. So this is not weighted into one thing. 4 of 5 RBs have hit this singular prop to like the number 1 receiving running back in the NFL. So to your point, if it could go heavy into Breece Hall running, but my point is you want to get the ball in his hand because they like putting it with Braylon between the tackles. You might see a lot more screen passes to Breece Hall, getting him in open field because they don't have a whole lot of other guy. You're going to see Garrett Wilson, a little bit of Lazard, but open field Breece Hall. This receiving yard prop, it's going to hit this week. Really, if I were putting these in like my value of how much I really like them, this one would actually be number 2. This is just how I ended up putting them for the show, but this is probably my second favorite of the week.
You know, it's funny for the juice you're getting on that. I think I would rather, me personally, rather take the 52.5 over on the rushing. He's hit this actually 3 of his 5 games this year before the last 2 weeks debacle of this offense. So in 2 of those 3 games, the Jets actually won. So if you're going to win this football game here, and it is a huge football game, you take the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands and you put it in Breece Hall.
Well, what you just told everybody is actually just do rushing and receiving and eat a little bit of the juice.
If you want it, if you can find the combo too, that's an interesting one because you give yourself more outs, but you got to look at what the juice is on there. For my money, again, if I'm going to go to something that's minus 120, I want something that's a little bit more controllable, in my opinion, which is the rushing. But to Welsh's point, it's Breece Hall this week. Like, you have to get back to utilizing your best weapon, play defense, run the football, keep it simple. Now, whether or not that's going to fly with Aaron, we'll see. Let's go to one of the big games we've got on the slate here. This is a marquee matchup. Washington, Baltimore. One where you have Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. You got a lot of fun things happening in this game. Erickson, let's talk about a receiver in this game that stands out to you that you want to bet.
Looking at Terry McLaurin, number 1 wide receiver for the Washington Commanders, looking over 4.5 receptions for him. Looking at the Ravens defense, how do you attack this defense? Through the air. I really think that the Commanders might actually struggle to run the football here. Brian Robinson is banged up, and the Ravens are playing at home. So I think they're going to make Jaden Daniels have to throw the ball, and we know that's going to go to Terry McLaurin. They've allowed the 5th most receptions on defense this season. So because I think that they're going to be trailing in this spot, I think McClaurin is really set up well here. When you look at the 2 times McClaurin has gone over this number this season, weeks 2 and 4, those came in contests where Jaden Daniels attempted at least 29 passes. Look at his pass attempts prop this week. It's at 31.5 attempts. So the median projection is he's going to be passing the ball at least 30 times. And when he's done that so far this year, Terry has benefited the most from it. So every quarterback the Ravens have faced this year has attempted at least 28 passes. So if they're dropping back to throw, I know it's going to Terry McLaurin. So I like the over here on his receptions prop.
Okay, so we're going the over on TMC. We got one more pick for the guys. Let's go to Arizona, the upstart. Potentially Arizona Cardinals. I mean, it's tough. They're Jekyll and Hyde Welsh every single week. So it's tough to figure out which version of Kyler Murray we're going to get. If we get the good one this week, what does that mean potentially for, let's say, Marvin Harrison Jr.?
It's going to mean big positives. We're going to have the bounce back on Marvin Harrison this week. Harrison's receiving yard prop sitting at 55.5. Projections are over 60. Going over to PFF, he has the number 1 wide receiver corner matchup, according to PFF, which you definitely like to watch, even if it doesn't end up being, the greatest. It's one of the best overall matchups for separation, which is kind of a problem with him. You get a bad corner with a guy that hasn't had really good separation numbers, then we can take advantage of it. You get a really lockdown corner, and we're going to have some struggles. You're going to have a bad time. You're going to pivot. Going back over, it's my South Park thing. If you didn't get it.
I always pizza when I should French fry.
Exactly.
It's my undoing.
Thank you. A wide receiver in 5 games against the Packers has gone over this marker. So 5 times has gone over this marker. So this is a good spot. It's a great cornerback matchup. We're gonna have the bounce back off of the really bad performance from Marvin Harrison, and I think we're gonna get the big targets going back as well. Erickson and I were talking about, maybe the sell potential that's on Marvin Harrison right now because the separation numbers are so bad. And part of that as well is the catch rate isn't great. So he's got to get volume. This is a matchup where you're going to get volume. This is a matchup where you're going to have points scored. It's probably a matchup where the Cardinals are going to be playing from behind. So due to all of that, this is a very, very obtainable number that projections really like. And I dig on the receiving yard numbers. Anything under 60 seems like a really smash play for Marvin Harrison. So that's my final one.
All right, last for Erickson, we'll get to the touchdown calls. Andrew, we always like to find the small numbers. The small numbers sometimes are the best ones. But you're still going under on a small number this week when it comes to Aidan O'Connell. Let's talk about it.
Aidan O'Connell making the start for the Las Vegas Raiders. Antonio Pierce has seen enough of Gardner Minshew. It only took 5 weeks, but I'm going under 2.5 rushing yards. O'Connell last year, he went over 2.5 rushing yards in just 4 of his 11 games played. And in each of those games when he went over, he had 3 rushing yards. When it comes to Aidan O'Connell, he is one of the most immobile quarterbacks basically ever to play in the NFL. Looking at per next gen stats, right? O'Connell did not record a single scramble rush attempt on any of his 367 dropbacks last season, joining fellow Purdue alumni Drew Brees as the only qualified passers to not attempt a single scramble run in the season in the next gen stats era. Purdue quarterbacks apparently just don't like to scramble at the NFL level. So given the fact that they're facing the Steelers pass rush, Aidan O'Connell's a sitting duck. And he's not going to be able to move and pick up yards. So I am slamming the under here at 2.5 rushing yards because even if he's able to escape the pocket, he's not going over the line of scrimmage. He just doesn't do it. He's going to try to look downfield and try to get off a throw. So for me, it's the under here on Aidan O'Connell. I love the guy. I think that he was kind of plucky last year at times. But yeah, he's not a mobile quarterback, and he's going to be sitting duck this week.
All right, so sitting duck Aidan O'Connell. Sorry, Raiders fans. Might not be getting too much better for you, especially with the Steelers coming to town. Let's talk about touchdowns. And of course, the touchdown score report at bettingpros.com/touchdown is a great way for you to get edges on touchdown bets. That's what we're trying to do. We love the TD calls around these parts. Our touchdown score report compares anytime touchdown stats to prop bet odds and projects how helpful it's going to be for the anytime touchdown to actually hit. So if you want to get ahead of the curve here, go to bettingpros.com/touchdown so you can score with all of your TD bets. Let's get to Welsh. Give me 2 guys to find the end zone in week 6.
Marvin Harrison, just like I talked before, you get the best cornerback wide receiver matchup. And you get plus money. We're going plus 120 on Marvin Harrison this week. I really like that one. And I got a plus 200 play. It's a little bit grosser because quarterback, we just talked about him, Aidan O'Connell. I'm going with Brock Bowers, but we're getting 2-1 on our money. You get a backup quarterback in. We're going to play safety net. They don't have safety nets in the backfield for them to throw to. So what do? Brock Bowers. You do Brock Bowers all day long, baby, because you're not going deep. There's no even receivers to go to anymore. The Steelers have given up 2 receiving touchdowns to tight ends so far this year and got torched last week, 9 for 98 on Jake Ferguson. So this is going to be, I don't think the Raiders are going to particularly play super well, but wherever the ball is going, it'll be going to Bowers. And I really like when they get in the red zone for them to target him. Good rush defense for the Steelers to take Alexander Mattison out of that. Brock Bowers, anytime touchdown. I believe it's plus 200, maybe even
That's
210. So give me Bowers.
Let me tell you, I love this one. And I know it's going to be tough sledding for them against that Pittsburgh defense, but at the same time, you got no Adams, you got Myers hurt, run game is crap. Brock Bowers. I mean, look, I'm just telling you what it is.
Crap
it
is being polite.
Crap is being polite. Sorry, Raiders fans. I mean, I'm hopeful it gets better, but maybe someday. Erickson.
2025 is right around the corner.
It can't come soon enough for the Raiders fans. All right, but at least your stadium's cool. I mean, you got that going for you.
That's sweet, dude. Cool. Good job.
Dude. And your owner's got an amazing haircut.
I would give anything for you to have the Davis hair. I would kill.
Halloween's not that far away. If you can find a wig that matches that with a visor or something, I will wear that.
Listeners
on the show
for on duty, we need a link. Get us the link. I need that
drop it
wig.
in the comments below, please. Any sort of
Mark Davis hair on Amazon.
Oh, please find
there
it.
It is.
Oh my God! Please drop it below.
We could all wear it. We could have a show where we all do like we did with baseball with my Joe Dirt. We'll just all wear Mark Davis wigs.
Hey man, we're not above the wigs. Welsh and I've already proven that on the baseball channel, which by the way you should subscribe to. Off-season baseball stuff. It's gonna start hicking up pretty soon. All right, Erickson, give me 2 guys to score in week 6.
Yeah, not for this baseball nonsense. I'm going with more nonsense. Zach Ertz plus 425 to score. Look, with tight ends, you just need games where there's points, right? That's what I'm looking for here. Zach Ertz, he had 4 red zone targets last week. I think the Commanders are going to be throwing a lot in this particular matchup. The Ravens are second in terms of yards, targets, and receiving yards to tight ends this season. So Zach Ertz, he's not great. He's got to fall in the end zone, but if the Ravens are keying in on stopping the run, I think they have to throw the ball in the red zone. So I'm going to go with Zach Ertz at plus 425. And then one of our London games early, Keenan Allen. I like him at plus 215. I think Welsh had Keenan Allen as an anytime touchdown score a couple weeks ago.
I almost picked it this week too, but they're London. I'm not doing that. So I almost did.
I want the people to wake up to a winner with a touchdown score. So Keenan Allen, to me, he has been still heavily involved in the red zone, especially even last week. He had a 2-point conversion attempt, but it came up short. But when I've been watching these Bears games, Caleb is looking for Keenan Allen in the red zone. So given that the Jaguars play the NFL's highest rate of man coverage, Keenan Allen leads the team in target share against man coverage. So I know that he's been quiet for the majority of the season. He obviously was missing a couple games with an injury, but I think he's going to surprise here. So I think he's undervalued at plus 215 as kind of that Bears number 3 receiver. I think he finds the end zone in London. That's my London prop bet touchdown of the week.
There you go. All right, I've got 2 for you in the same game, and they're both quarterbacks. I think it's going to be as advertised, Jaden Daniels and Lamar Jackson. Give me Jaden Daniels at plus 150, Lamar Jackson at plus 145. Both QBs to have rushing touchdowns in this game. I think it's going to be a wild one. I think it's going to be fun. I don't think Jaden Daniels has any pressure on him. Again, this is all just fun for him. I don't think he's going to choke in the big spot. I really don't. I think he's going to at least be competitive for the first 3 quarters of this game. We'll see if they can hang for 4 with the Baltimore Ravens, but Lamar has a lot to prove. He's the MVP. He's got a team right now that I think is finally going in the right direction. And most importantly, if you're the reigning MVP, the last thing you want to hear about is this young kid coming into town and how good he is and all this, and he's the new Lamar Jackson. I think the old Lamar Jackson shows up and reminds everybody he is the best Lamar Jackson. So give me Lamar, give me Jaden Daniels in what I think is not going to be a disappointing game between the Ravens and the Commanders. I can't believe I said those words. A non-disappointing game with the Commanders in it. Unbelievable.
Do you like the Commanders, plus 7? Do you like that side?
This game has so many variables. I think I just want the over because I do think that, I don't think there's quit in the Commanders. I just don't see that in them. Now, it could be wrong. Maybe we'll get the real test here. But I think this game has a lot of variables and ranges of outcomes of how things can go. And I think the best path is maybe just to stay away from that line altogether and just go for the over-under. Welsh, what do you think about that?
I was about to say, it sounds like Erickson likes +7 Commanders.
Sounds like it.
I would probably rather tease them. I don't think I would, if I were to have a play, it would be the over. I'm not sure that I would actually touch this game. I think I could see the scenario where the Ravens blow this out. I would just point out, the Commanders, like, they're playing really well, but most touchdowns given up receiving. I know this is a heavy running team. I dabbled with maybe doing a Mark Andrews anytime touchdown in this game, because if there was a time to do it.
I love it. I already bet Andrews.
I'd rather bet Charlie Cole.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it would be the potential for it.
Over for Mark Andrews this week. It was 23.5 yards or something. I'm over. I'm
just saying,
in.
I could see the Ravens beating the Commanders by 20 in this game, or I could see this coming down to the wire, because Jaden Daniels is the defining factor. He keeps this Commanders team. He is so efficient. He's the anti-early Lamar Jackson. He can run, and he is massively efficient. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't have a great feel. The only feel I would have is to play an over on the total. Everything else is just, I don't know, man. I can't see this
the garbage time where the Ravens get ahead, and then all of a sudden the Commanders kind of chip away, and all of a sudden that 7 doesn't look so good anymore. But Erickson, where are you at with the 7?
Yeah, this one is interesting to me because all the media that I've absorbed this week talks about, and rightfully so, oh, this is a great game. Like, CBS is sending its star crew to cover this game with Romo and Nance. And you look at how many times have we seen, like, the game of the week be a 7-point spread, right? Isn't that kind of weird? Where it's almost like the talk of this game said, oh, 3-point spread, baby. Like, it's going to be a shootout. It's going to be back and forth. But the spread still sits at 7 points. So I kind of lean with Welsh here, where I think the Ravens might destroy the Commanders.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be the Commanders win outright. So I kind of like going on the two opposite ends of the spectrum versus, oh, it's going to be, around.
Bro, the last time I thought the Ravens were going to destroy a team, they lost at home to the Raiders. So that's all I'm saying is, like, I respect what the Ravens have been doing. They've gotten back on track, but they also have a weird way of letting teams hang around sometimes, and that's.
But it's usually bad teams that they do that, and I don't think that the Commanders are viewed as a bad team, right?
I don't know if they're. I think they're viewed as a fun team. I don't know if they're good or bad yet.
I'll tell you one thing.
Our answer.
We're gonna find out.
The crowns. Get the crown, Joey. King Henry.
Find out.
Well, King Henry is always a good bet, folks.
Billie Eilish. Yeah, exactly. There you go. King Henry.
Always a bet on King Henry. Always. That'll do it for us. Make sure you download the BP app. Check out the prop bet cheat sheet to help you make the best prop bets for Week 6 of the NFL. The King is now officially abdicating the throne and leaving you all to have a wonderful Week 6. For the Welsh and Andrew Erickson, the Undertaker, I'm Joey P. King Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Oh, look how it shines.
It does. So shiny.
My God. Let that be a lesson to all the minions.